Hi everyone, Tom here, and I went to BitSummit in Kyoto and had a chance to play more indie games than I ever have at any expo. Here are 10 to check out and wishlist. When in Kyoto, why not start off with a game from there? I had a chance to play Q Games All You Need Is Help, a game where 4 players are unique shapes made out of cubes that have to rotate into place and land on the ground. But the catch is you can't rotate by just pressing buttons. You can only rotate with the help of others when you run into them. And it works! With a little finessing, of course, to make things entertaining, but nothing janky. I do love a good couch co-op game, and found this one to be relaxing compared to the frenetic pace some have. Talking to the developers, one thing they found is that while a stage may be easy for them, it can still be difficult for others, and they have kept that in mind. A little adorable details is how the eyes light up when a block is about to plant themselves on the ground, and not every level is about matching a shape. Some have buttons to press along the way, and the second level I played had a ball that needed to be rolled around a corner without falling off the edge. The big highlight was a pong game at the end, with 2 players stuck to each end of a paddle and having to work together against the other team with a short time limit. A surprising twist with some competitive stakes that brought up the intensity, and although there might only be a few of these minigames, I can't help but wonder what others will be included like this. It'll be online too with crossplay on various platforms including Switch this fall. The potential is high for this one to crack my couch co-op roster. Next up is Crossy Road Castle on Nintendo Switch, a platformer for up to 4 players with randomly generated rooms about making your way up an increasingly challenging tower. While I played a 2-player game with the developer from Hipster Whale, they mentioned a big focus was to remove friction while playing, and to me the game was like someone had rubbed butter all over it in terms of how smooth and quick the experience was. Also, it did not go the new Super Mario Bros. Route, and players can freely pass through each other. Players that die in a room are never left out for long, as they respawn quickly in a new room. While it will be out on consoles later this year, it's been out on Apple Arcade for quite some time. The developers have kept working on it for about 5 years, and it shows with a huge amount of content available across 11 worlds, such as a space world with teleporters, or a temple world with giant rotating blocks and Donkey Kong-like barrels to shoot out of. It really felt like a dazzling array of elements to watch out for, with secret routes and optional tough collectibles too. And it sounds like Hipster Whale is intent on continuing to expand on it. This is a game that while I played for close to 1 hour, it could have easily gone on for a few more. Although a controller was in my hands, I wouldn't necessarily say I played this, but rather experienced Dome King Cabbage's latest demo. It's a visually stunning visual novel. I would say this may be the most stunning game I saw at the show, about making your way to a job interview, but handled through the lens of a monster hunting RPG. The range here in styles and presentation was so impressive for an effort from a solo developer. Even considering it's been 6 years, this is an amazing showcase. And the gameplay part itself ended up in an RPG parody, like starting off on a fake PlayStation console. And only one game was playable, the RPG. Despite, maybe not a ton of gameplay in the demo, I was left highly impressed and can't wait to see more of this game. Whatever time the developer needs to cook on this one, I'll be there when it comes out. It's aiming for PC and Switch currently. Bobls is a bubble-based platformer about collecting all the gems in each level before an exit appears. The catch is that once you touch a bubble, it pops, and if you've missed a gem, you're stuck moving forward for a couple seconds until that bubble respawns, or have fallen to your doom if there's no ground. What I like the most is that bubbles propel you upwards, and the level design incorporates this for a quick burst of acceleration, complete with sound effects that speed up with each gem in succession, and leading to a very satisfying Peggle-like effect. Acceleration also happens down slopes, giving it a more dynamic feel. While most bubbles pop in one touch, others take 2. Later in the demo, you gain the ability to create a moving bubble that adds a puzzle element to plan out routes, and collect keys that worked quite well. A decent challenge that I liked, although we'll see how the difficulty increases in later levels, and there's always a level editor. Rhythm Rabbit by Mark Walter started in the GMTK Game Jam for Roll of the Dice. It's kind of an interesting concept where a random number of music notes will appear around your rabbit character, and then you jump that number of tiles. Now it kind of seems simple and maybe the graphics aren't that flashy, but don't let that fool you. I was playing this and I had to kind of turn around and ask Mark, let me know if a huge line starts appearing behind me, because I was just hooked on this game. Once moving around and you start getting things like watching out for mole hills that you fall into or bats that change your direction, there's a lot going on that I had to keep track of, particularly keeping track of the second backup move to pull off, and extremely solid gameplay overall. This is coming out in 2025 for PC first and likely coming to other platforms later. Fowl Damage, a platformer where you play as an extremely fragile egg, meaning you have to manage all your jumps and your path in a different way than what you're used to. I played an earlier version of this many years ago around PAX, and the graphics have stepped up since back then, and now there's a face on the egg that's hilariously grew in terror as I reached edges. And honestly found it pretty funny along with quick respawns, so mistakes aren't that painful. There's a Steam demo available right now if you want to check it out. The Axis Unseen is being made by a solo developer who previously worked on titles such as Skyrim, Fallout, and Metroid Prime 3. It's a heavy metal horror game about hunting monstrous, and sometimes massive, creatures with a bow and arrow that, fair enough, also hunt you. One way creatures do this is via your tracks that are left in soft dirt, which is the alternative to walking on rocks that create noise and alert creatures to your presence. Set in large open forests with vistas of gargantuan skeletons, this tracking element built up tension as I moved along to unlock a portal, checking back often in fear, and culminating in a moment where I was being chased down and barely made it. Also impressive is the lack of UI in the game, featured only on some runes on the back of the bow, and things like ammo can be checked just by looking at your quiver. And kudos to a demo that featured multiple quick scenes of different scenarios to give a taste of the game before diving in. The Axis Unseen will be coming out this October. How about a roguelike 3D battling game? In Cyborg-Prototype, you can punch and kick with each arm and leg, but the catch is, let's say if your left arm gets damaged, you don't have that arm to punch with anymore. The damage builds up as you go along, then at the end of the round you only get to repair one thing. It's a little slow at first, but the tension sure rises as the run goes on. As the art style, it reminds me a little bit of PS2 era Kojima games. You can upgrade with different moves, or every once in a while get a chance to repair more items. I would say one downside is there is a laser super attack that might have been a little bit too easy to rely on. But this was super unique and a great find at BitSummit. A rabbit that was experimented on and has a computer chip stuck in its head. Telebbit is about a teleporting rabbit that can teleport onto white tiles, a little like how Portal differentiates surfaces. And very quickly more mechanics are thrown in, like moving up on jump pads during a teleport, or shooting the teleport endpoint onto different enemies to wait for a good point to spawn to. I get the impression this will be pretty hard overall in the end, and the scientist banter kind of gives me the impression of if Gato Roboto was mean. This one will be coming out to various platforms including Switch, and there's a demo right now on Steam. Robo Frenzy is a game in which you fight cartoony robots in a battle arena. Now, I was wondering what's the catch at first as I was building different machines around the arena, and fighting a match was starting to take quite a long time. And then it clicked when I found out you chain the different machines together to kind of build more powerful weapons or different upgrades to fight a robot. Kind of like a tower defense against a massive boss, or rather as the developer put it, a tower offense. I found managing and repairing all the different machines while the bosses smash them to be a neat balance full of different creative ways, like shoving weapons into cannons to fire at the boss. There's also a co-op mode. Demonschool was at the show, but it also had a meaty demo, so I checked that out for about 2 hours. It's a tactics game about high school students that fight demons, and besides killing all the enemies, an alternative to finish matches is to reach the other side and seal the area to end the battle. A couple features I liked is you get 10 moves to plan out each round, and you can rewind and redo to your heart's content in the planning phase before setting them. This helps with the other intriguing angle that if you line up characters' moves together, you can create combos in the action phase, or knock back enemies into other attacks. And with 4 different characters to control, it's a little like having chess pieces. While some attack, one in the demo only stunned other enemies, and one healed but at full health also increased the other character's attack power. Considering how some of the matches had to aim to finish in 3 moves and I was taking 6, there's a high ceiling for effective strategies in this game. Demonschool comes out Friday, September 13th this year. Couple quick shoutouts at the end. Tokyo Underground Killer's game feel was excellent with the sword, and perhaps the most instantly immersive game to get sucked into it. Well, if you're into games that run on old hardware, Changeable Guardian Estique ran on Famicom. It handled super well and seemed to have modern flourishes, so it wasn't as tough as some old NES games. You can swap between a mech and a ship in it. I prefer this more to Gradius, but also they had several decades to improve on it. And there you have it. Whoops, did I do more than 10? Overall, BitSummit was a great experience in a more compact hall than something like PAX West, and I only ever had to wait for at most one person in line ahead of me. And compared to Tokyo Game Show on public days, there was actually floor space to walk around. For the most part, I was pretty spoiled with English options in a majority of the demos, or the game idea could still come across in Japanese. Sometimes a game does need more time than what an expo allows, like the retro-stylish 45 Parabellum Bloodhound, which I didn't totally get the hang of, but wish I did. If there's a game you'd recommend keeping an eye on and wishlisting, share it with everybody in the comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye.